This is Cross Culture Podcast with Belle Tindall and Lauren Windle,
where we talk pop culture and current affairs from a Christian perspective. We are back. It's season 2, episode 2. We kind of mopped up a lot of the stuff that had to be discussed when we came back with episode 1. So now I feel like we're in our groove. We get to kind of like sink into the current affairs and pop culture that we actually want to talk about now.
Oh, yes. Honestly, it'll just give me time and the Mystics. I'll bring them up in no time.
Yeah. Can't believe there's been no Julian of Norwich.
I know.
Outrageous. We haven't talked about our Jew in ages.
Give me time, people. Give me time.
Before we talk about anything, though, I want to say thank you to Colette, who is a listener who sent us such an amazing email about being a fan of the show. And we're up to like 3 people who vocally enjoy it now. And that's great. And I've got my sights set on the big old round number of 5 by the end of the year.
The big 5. When we hit 5, do you know what, actually? I'd like to add one. My friend Beth, I went to a baby shower on Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
And one of my friends, Beth, was there and I could hear her. And this is when you know someone's a good friend. She was talking to other people about the podcast and I could just hear her like from like 4 seats down.
Oh.
And that's when you know that someone's really rooting for you, when you can overhear them cheering for you. So maybe
they
we're
don't realise you're listening, but they're saying things about you.
Exactly.
Okay, you sound great. Like, let me know in London, you want to grab a coffee, hon?
She's in Paris right now celebrating her 30th, so happy birthday to her. But next time she's in London, I'm sure she will take you up on that.
That's fab. And
I know.
Such an amazing city to celebrate your 30th birthday in.
It's very bougie, isn't it?
Very. Okay, let's kick off with some stuff. And I actually tried to shoehorn this in last week, but didn't fly, didn't happen. There's probably too much to say. But I want to talk about the content that is coming from the royals at the moment. And we'll kick off with my sister the other day. We were walking down the street and she was like, oh, have you watched that Live, Laugh, Meghan? And I was like,
is that what it's called?
No.
Oh.
But her name for it is surprisingly apt. It's With Love, Meghan.
Oh, so it may as well be.
Yeah. And actually, I was like, when she asked me, I was like, oh, hello. And I kind of strapped in for a bit of a bitching session, if I'm honest. Yeah. Like, let's dig into all of the ways that we can pick this thing apart. And she was like, there's nothing really not to like about it. And she says that from a place where she doesn't particularly love Meghan. I think there was a time where she was very pro Meghan. And I think lots of people had that moment, you know, a few years back, whatever, and really felt that she was quite hard done by. And then maybe it waned a bit as you read the stories and you start to feel increasingly less sympathetic and stuff like that. But I think that what she was pushing back against, my sister is a Christian, is this like need to tear people down when really, yes, she's created an aesthetically beautiful, bit unrealistic, bit aspirational show about sort of keeping house and hospitality and entertaining. It's not supposed to be everyone's everyday life. I don't think Meghan Markle would sit down and be like, we should all be, you know, getting honey from our bees to make a home lemon cake when our friends come and stay with us.
Wait, do you not?
I haven't been down to beehives in a while.
You better check on that, honey. That must be building right up. Okay, tell me, is that a real? Because I haven't, hands in the air, I haven't seen this, and not because I have anything against Meghan as a person, as a royal, as a whatever, just because, like you have kind of alluded to, that kind of stuff just isn't my thing. It won't catch my interest. Like the trad wife and everything that goes with that. Oh, I just whatever. So tell me about a few of the things that she does in that show that for some reason is angering people.
So it's winding people up. It's fair to say. I don't know if you caught bits and pieces on social media, but the social commentary people are feeling triggered by whatever it is she's putting out there, which is pretty inoffensive at its core. It may not be particularly authentic all the time and definitely unachievable for anyone who is a parent without a significant income to hire a significant amount of help, right?
Yeah.
But okay. So the premise of the show is each episode, there's some sort of guest, whether that's a friend of hers or a celebrity who she knows, who she has some sort of relationship with in some way. So Mindy Kaling was one of them.
The Mindy.
Yeah, Mindy from the Mindy Project. She's in it for one. Then like Meghan's like best friend / former makeup artist when she was on Suits, and other people, blah blah blah. And they have these different themes throughout it. She's been criticised for not filming in her own home. It's like a set / neighbour's house.
Oh,
I don't care about that. I wouldn't film in my own home either if I was subject to sort of stalking and security threats. So I don't think it's such a big deal.
Does she pretend that it's her own home though? Is she like this? Does she talk about how she decorated it or anything? No.
She literally said like really early doors. She's like, he's coming to stay. I'm going to prepare some stuff that's going to go in the room where he's staying. I'm just going to pop it all on this tray for now because this isn't my home and I'm going to take it with me to my home.
Oh,
right?
There you go. Yeah. Totally fine.
She's not lying.
No.
But that's been a source of annoyance. Another source of annoyance has been that in one episode she does like a kids party and she doesn't actually show the kids. Does she show the kids enjoying it? No, she doesn't show the kids enjoying it. And her kids are certainly not featured in this at all. Again, I totally understand that.
Completely.
No. So she designs the whole party and like makes the food and stuff like that. And then her and Mindy like sit and enjoy it. And they're like, oh, this is fun for adults too. And they have like, like a mimosa as like, there's a few like boozy cocktails that they enjoy. And they're like, so look, the kids can come and enjoy it. And then when they run off and play, we'll just sit here and have our cocktails kind of vibes. But they don't actually put kids into the setting. But there's a lot of like, she sort of decants things from their original packaging into different disposable plastic packaging that just makes it look nice. And that's got people's goat a bit.
That's the one thing though that feels relatable to me. The amount of times I've been asked to bake something and all I've done is take it out of the M&S wrapper and sprinkled a little bit of something on the top. That's the one thing I can get on board with.
So she's like got these like peanut crunch things, which I guess are like treats in America, but we don't really have them here. She takes them out of the like brightly colored, tacky fast food packaging, puts them into a disposable plastic bag, and then ties like some sort of twine with like a brown paper and like writes on it in nice writing, like peanut brittle or whatever it is.
Okay.
So people are like, that's a bit stupid. And then also she puts in these kids' party bags like seeds to plant a basil plant, seeds to plant little plants, like different plants that you could plant in your garden. I think if I was the Duchess of Sussex, I'd probably do things like that as well, because she'll have fancy parents coming who don't feed their kids E-numbers, who like are pure organic. Like, okay, the kids don't care about it, but kids' parties, you're kind of showing off to the adults at that stage anyway. So like, who cares, Okay, I'm sure she puts like a honey stick in there as well from her like beehive. I don't know if kids really care about that.
What's a honey stick?
It's like just a stick of honey.
Literally just like a shard of honey.
Yeah. The other thing that's really, and the tabloids have really picked up on this as well, is that Mindy says something like, I can't believe that Meghan Markle sent me some homemade jam. And she was like, oh, do you know that I'm Sussex?
Oh, I have spotted this.
Yeah. So she said she just wanted the same last name as her kids. So she's Sussex. Now, there's been a lot of like, I'm a royal expert and here's why Meghan's last name isn't Sussex. And it's not technically Sussex.
No,
right?
just like they're not actually Windsors, are they?
Aren't they like
Mountbattens?
Thank you. I knew it was something like that.
No, I prefer yours, Mountainblats.
Is it Mountbatten Mount?
Yeah, so I guess, because if they were to do their last names like we do them, as in it kind of goes down the patriarchal line, then they're Mountbattens, because that's what the Duke of Edinburgh, the Queen's husband, he was Philip Mountbatten, right? Yeah. So if the whole family, including the Queen, is going to do the last names like we do them, they're Mountbattens. But of course they don't, just like the Tudors didn't, like they don't. So they are Windsors, but they're not Windsors.
Because it's kind of like when Justin Welby was Archbishop of Canterbury, him going around being like, oh, it's Justin Canterbury now.
Yeah, that would have been odd.
Because also it is a temporary title in that, I mean, what were Kate and William before?
They were the Cambridges, but I guess now they're the Waleses.
The Waleses, yeah. So it's not a stationary thing for the whole time. As the structure moves around, you get a different title. So it, just as it has been proven, Justin Welby is not consistently Archbishop of Canterbury. So it's not the same logic. I've really reduced it down to something absurd and mildly Christian for our audience. But like it's...
Yeah,
you know,
Oh, we know where we are now. We brought up the Archbishop.
sorry, no, this is we know.
Up the Archbishop.
Sorry, no, this is a Christian podcast.
Yeah.
You've mentioned the Archbishop of Canterbury. At least we've all stationed ourselves.
For you.
Wow, it just sounded like a royal podcast for a sec. So yeah, I don't know though if they want to make that their last name. Who cares? If Harry and Meghan Sussex and child 1 and child 2 Sussex, I can't remember their kids' names. Archie.
Yeah, and the little girl, she was named after the Queen, wasn't she? But the Queen's nickname.
Lily.
Yes,
yeah,
that's it.
Yeah.
Lily something.
Okay, so
the Sussexes. Fair enough.
Let's move it on from. Wait, hang on. Before we move it on, I'm kind of just saying, like, my takeaway point is, yes, it's all a bit silly. Yes, it's all a bit aesthetically perfect. Yes, of course. Like, she bristles when her friend says the F word, and it's like, come on, love. You know, like, all right, you don't have to be this sort of perfect trad wife, but also, like, if she wants to be, she's conducting herself with dignity. She's doing nice things. There's nothing, like my sister says, there's nothing to hate about it.
Yeah.
Leave her alone if you don't like it.
Leave her. Just pull a me. Don't watch it.
Don't engage.
Can you think of anything that she could have released and people would have just been like, do you know what? This is great. I literally can't think of what that would have been. Because I feel like they've tried a lot, haven't they? Like, she's tried a safari documentary. She's done like children's books. She's got a brand of jam. Like, they've literally tried everything, and with everything.
Wait, hang on. Did you know a jam is made with fruit and a jelly is made with fruit juice?
What? No.
That's the difference. It's not just American versus English.
Oh.
Yeah.
I did not know that. But now I do. It'll change my life. Every day's a school day. When you
genuinely, that's probably the most interesting thing I'm going to say on this podcast.
Yeah, I just feel like she was never going to do anything that people would like. But it might be a bit annoying, and I won't watch it.
Things I would say though, there's a few things. It feels like the next evolution of her identity crisis a little bit. If I were to venture a criticism,
if hypothetically I was to have a negative thought, it might be something like.
And it seems like, you've listed all of these projects, but it just seems like all of these projects, all of this Archwell production projects have been in this ideation stage for years. Right?
Yeah.
And there's a lot of talk, and there's a lot of rebranding, there's a lot of renaming, and there's a lot of design. It feels like they've probably spent years now turning up to expensive boardrooms for creatives who are overpaid to present them with different colorways that could work, their brands and stuff like that. And actually, it's time to just produce things. And this is what she's done. But obviously, it's not good enough. Just like her Archetype podcast was not good enough. It was criticised.
Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed that. Now, that is something I did engage with, and I thought it was all right.
Did you? You do the Serena one? Or did you do
I think I did the Mindy one.
Oh, okay, nice.
And I loved Mindy in it. I can't really remember much of Meghan in it, but I remember really like actually being like, because Mindy spoke about imposter syndrome, and I remember actually being like, this is great. This is going to change the way I think.
People picked holes in that because it was a team of 20 people to make a podcast, and look at us pulling it off with just 3.
Look at us.
And a $20 million budget, which is
Where does that go on a podcast?
Pulling it together with just $3 compared.
3 people, $3.
Yeah, I don't think you need that much,
Where does that even go on a podcast? Like, literally, where does that go? $20 million. Yeah. Surely there's only so much like technology.
Well, and I guess they flew people in from different places, and those people are quite expensive to fly in and then put up in hotels and look after, and everyone will have had makeup and everyone will have had styling and
Sure.
How do we do this? How do we manage without the full glam,
Just pure charisma. When you're as good at this as we are, there's no need for the millions. There's no need for makeup.
I've got a Rimmel lip gloss that I smashed on before we started.
Yeah, I'm sporting the old Nivea.
Not a Nivea. Gosh, sometimes the basics are just the best, aren't they?
100%. I've really been reconverted. I've gone full circle.
Okay, but then quickly before we move on from the royals, who has come out in the same week that Meghan dropped her With Love Meghan? We both almost combusted when we saw this.
Yeah.
Saw it and put it on the schedule to talk about, and then you saw it like later that day and sent it over to me on Instagram because the palace
The palace, only your own father-in-law competing with it. They're going head to head. The king.
What's he doing, Belle?
It's a music show, right?
Yeah, it's a podcast for Apple Podcasts,
Oh.
right? Now, it just proves that that the innate desire for straight white men to make a podcast transcends age, rank, socioeconomic group.
Yeah, you're right. It's an actual, like, it's something in their DNA. It must be something about testosterone.
Gets everyone. And I've been suggesting a one in, one out policy. To be honest, we're not a million miles off of that category. Yeah,
we're not.
But we're pretty conforming to that stereotype.
2 white girls chatting about the royals. Yeah, that never happens.
Oh my goodness. Finally, someone's done it. Yeah, so his is about his favorite music. How cute is that?
It's really cute. It's really wonderful.
Actually dropped on Monday and I've not listened to it.
But we know in theory.
We know it's there.
It's wonderful.
We know it's there. And I really loved the Insta promos. I loved seeing the king addressing the nation through the medium of social media. You know? And of all the shows he was going to do, like, there's something quite nice about that. Like, here's my favourite jams, guys.
Here's my favourite jams. Yes, so it's called The King's Music Room. And shall I just read out just a couple that are on his playlist?
Yes.
So it's a playlist curated to feature artists from around the Commonwealth, obviously. So we've got Bob Marley and the Wailers. Could you be loved?
I knew they would be very prominent with someone that represented diversity. And who is the most recognised mainstream Black artist? Well, not necessarily the most, but definitely very iconic. They've gone for Bob Marley.
Bob Marley. Could You Be Loved, which is interesting. Would that be your Bob Marley choice?
Probably Buffalo Soldier.
Yeah, I was thinking Buffalo Soldier. We've got Michael Bublé, Haven't Met You Yet.
The boobs.
Yeah.
The king likes the boobs.
He really does. We've got, who else? We've got Jules Holland, because of course we've got Jules Holland. We've got Kylie Minogue.
Which Kylie?
The Locomotion, which definitely is not the Kylie I would pick.
It's a different era of Kylie to my era.
Yeah.
That's
you're right.
Just post Neighbours Kylie, whereas I would have gone for tiny gold shorts Kylie, like I'm spinning around.
Yeah, I remember I went to the V&A when her costume exhibition was on, and I remember seeing those gold shorts, and honestly, she's tiny.
It was just like seeing kids' underwear or something.
It really was. So she's in there. We've got Ray. We have got Grace Jones. Yeah, Ray. Love Me Again is in there. Grace Jones is in there. Beyonce is in there. Diana Ross is in there. So it's
Hey, I need to know which Beyonce song.
Yes.
Oh, is it Single Ladies?
No.
Crazy in Love?
Yes.
Crazy in Love.
Nicely done. Crazy in Love.
I don't think the king actually likes that song.
Definitely not. I don't think, like when Barack Obama posts his playlist sometimes, and you think, yeah, do you know what? I have full confidence that Barack Obama actually runs listening to Little Sims. I do not think that the king is for 1 second listening to Beyonce's Crazy in Love. But if he wants to pretend that he is, just like Meghan wants to pretend that she puts honey bars in all of her kids' lunchboxes or whatever she does, just let them pretend.
Let them. Who cares? If that's what they want to present, let them. I wonder if he had actually picked out 5 songs that he genuinely listens to. Do you think it would all be classical music?
Definitely. Well, I reckon of that list, the one that I can actually see him listening to is Jules Holland. So maybe he was like, come on, please allow me one.
I can imagine him liking like the Beatles, like early doors Beatles, like some of that era. Like I reckon back in the day, he would have slapped on a Fleetwood Mac, you know?
Maybe, yeah.
Also, there's a tipping point in life, right? Which I doubt you've got to yet. And I only haven't because I engage quite a lot with pop culture, but all my friends already have, where you stop listening to any new music and you just listen to old music that you've already
known.
Do you get that like 40 years ago? Why is he pretending that he's listened to Ray?
Yeah, come on. Do you know, this is moving us on somewhat, but do you know who else has reached that tipping point where apparently they're only listening and platforming artists that they were listening to 20 years ago?
Who?
The old Glastonbury organisers.
So I didn't get Glastonbury tickets, but our Glastonbury WhatsApp group where we coordinate a medium of spreadsheet with everyone's Glastonbury registration numbers, etc., to get the tickets. someone did drop the poster of the lineup this year, and everyone was like, never mind.
Meh. Well, I just looked. Let me just for a minute, let me read out a few of the offerings. So we've got Scissor Sisters, The Script, Snow Patrol, Weezer, Alanis Morissette, Biffy Clyro. And to that, my genuine reaction was, what in the 2004 is happening here?
Sounds like my Kerrang! Megamix CD.
What is going on? Truly.
Yeah, I guess like Glastonbury ages, right? With the people who loved it when they were teenagers, they're now 30 years old. So I guess they're just appealing to. Also, I don't think that they can command. I don't think it's the same level as prestige as it was.
No. And that's what I'm.
Same people.
Yeah, that's what I'm leaning to accept, is that for some reason, whatever reason, I think actually a lot of it has to do with the mega tours that we're seeing people go on now. So Taylor Swift's Eras tour, Oasis, also residencies. I heard rumours that Harry Styles is in talks to do a Las Vegas residency. So it's like artists, they're finding new ways to draw in bigger crowds and make far more money, far more of a splash. Everything is filmed now and put on social media, so they don't actually need the BBC filming their set anymore. In fact, some of them, Neil Young is railing against it. I don't know. This is all speculation, but you're right. Something is draining Glastonbury organisers of their power to pull in these truly monumental names.
Yeah.
But so when I first read it...
the King will be pleased because Ray's on Saturday.
Congratulations, Your Highness, Your Majesty, rather. Yeah. Okay, shall we play a little game of Where Will You Be?
Go on.
I'm going to read to you for each evening the headliner for the pyramid stage and the headliner for the other stage and the headliner for the even littler stage. And I'll just wonder where you'll be. Okay. On the Friday night, on the pyramid stage, you have the 1975.
Yeah.
On the other stage, you have Loyal Kana. And then on the Park stage, you have Biffy Clyro. Where will you be?
Gun to my head, 1975, but I'm not really interested. When's Alanis Morissette on Friday? Because I'd go to her.
Yeah, I don't know when.
Busta Rhymes. I'd be at
Busta Rhymes.
Yeah. Not that he's necessarily playing at the same time. Maybe. Oh, no, I lie. All the way down there in Little Writing, I can see On Vogue. Now that is my kind of music.
All the way down there in the writing you need your glasses to see is Lauren's cup of tea.
In the small room, that's the top stage where you'll find me with my alcohol-free beer and my heart-shaped sunglasses.
Oh, yes.
Go on, let's play Saturday.
Okay, Saturday. Are you going to be at the pyramid stage with Neil Young? Are you going to be at the other stage with Charlie XCX? Are you going to be at the Park stage with Ray and the King?
Probably be Charlie XCX. What would you?
Me too, Charlie XCX. I'm not that bothered, but I think it'd be a mad party, so I'm going to go there.
Yeah, I think she'd turn it up. Okay, and finally, on Sunday, are you going to be on the pyramid stage with Olivia Rodrigo? Are you going to be... Oh, they've put Rod Stewart here, but I know that he's doing the Legend set. Right, I'll ignore him. Are you going to be on the other stage with The Prodigy? Are you going to be on the Park stage with Noah Khan? I'd be at Olivia Rodrigo, but if you'd said Rod Stewart, I'd be at Rod Stewart.
Yeah.
Bit of the old Maggie May. My dad used to love... Sorry, I said that like my dad's still about. My dad loves Rod Stewart. So I'd probably do that because it reminds me of long car journeys where we weren't allowed to choose music. See that there where it says Celeste? Is that Daphne and Celeste fame, given that we're in the 2000s here? Or is that...
No, I think that's just a Celeste.
The new Celeste in town.
There's a new Celeste on the block and she's at Glastonbury. So anyway, all of that to say that...
Are you pleased that you busted a gut and paid a fortune to get tickets then, Belle?
No. It'll be a great time. It's absolutely always a great time.
You'll have a good time.
But yeah, my brother had to text me and kind of placate me and just be like, listen, there's this person there, you will enjoy them. And just had to calm me down.
Oh, that's so sweet.
He is sweet. He's the best.
That's really sweet.
I know. And he was like, listen, I know that you won't have heard of them, but I think you'd love this and you should go and see this and you should go and see this. So but I just love how he knew that I needed that. I needed someone to say, hold the phone. It's not as bad as you think, Belle.
I don't think live music is fun if you don't know the acts or if you don't know. I like basically, if I don't know the words, I find it hard to engage,
Yeah,
at least
fair
for the
enough.
chorus. And someone's messaged me. I've got a mate who works in music and in radio, and we were supposed to be grabbing like some lunch. And he was like, do you know what? Actually, I've got some tickets to a country event this weekend. So I've bought obviously a cowboy hat on Amazon.
Obviously.
um, and I'm going to turn up. But if it's not Dolly Parton or Shania Twain, I really can't give you much in terms of country music. So I'm a bit worried
Yeah.
there.
There's, of course, that famous country artist Beyonce that might be featured.
If she's there, then I'll actually be fine as it goes.
Yeah.
It ain't Texas, and
Yeah.
I'll do to that. That's
Yeah.
fine.
This ain't Texas, and I ain't a country fan. So
Yeah,
let's move.
I'm just here for the vibes, and I'll tell you what else I have finally finished, and this has been a long time in the making because I started it as we were recording last season. And then I hit pause because when you work in publishing, suddenly a whole load of books hit your desk and you've just got to read them because that's like your job.
What a dream.
I picked it back up again and I've now finished Fully Alive by Liz Oldfield. Is her name on the book Liz Oldfield or Elizabeth Oldfield?
Elizabeth Oldfield. Only good pals like you call her Liz. So who is your pal, Liz Oldfield, Lauren? Introduce the listeners and then we'll go from there.
She is, oh gosh. I mean, so like CV wise, she was formerly the director, heading up Theos. I don't know what title she specifically would have said.
But the big boss, top
she
of the
was the
pyramid.
big boss of Theos, yeah, which is a incredible think tank. And then she has more recently stepped away from that. And she's just, and she presents Sacred podcast, which has just had Jamila Jamil on it.
I loved that episode. Go and listen to that, everybody. After finishing this, obviously.
Tell me what were your sort of takeaways from that? Because I haven't listened to it yet.
So I want to give huge congratulations to whoever the Sacred's booker is, first and foremost, because the guests they have on is so out of the box. Yeah. And I say that as someone who has a Christian-based interview podcast. It's really easy to get the same sort of circuit of people. Really hard to think that Jamila Jamil is a good idea and then get her to think that you are a good idea. So just well done to everyone. So the episode's amazing because Elizabeth is amazing and you can tell she's excited about this episode. And you can tell she just wants to soak up Jamila for all that she is. And Jamila is provocative, but she's also really honest. There's a huge amount about women aging that I think needs to be spoken about more and more and more and more. There's a huge amount about the algorithm and beauty standards, like all of the stuff that you know Jamila Jamil to speak of, she does. But because Elizabeth Oldfield is who she is, she pulls like the depth. She pulls the depth out of Jamila and says, why do you think this? What are your principles? What are your guiding values? What were you like as a child? Like there's no small talk in this episode.
Yeah. This is a book that I would buy for and hand to my friends who would describe themselves as spiritual, who clearly are looking for something. Yep. If I just want them to get the key fundamental points of why Christianity is so important to me, but not handing them an actual like mere Christianity, like a just specifically evangelical book, because that's not, in essence, that's not what it is. I think that there's a byproduct that people will feel intrigued and pulled in. And there's such a refreshing straightforwardness about the way she presents her faith. But ultimately, it's an exploration of what it is to feel fulfilled. And it so happens that Elizabeth, in many ways, has found that through her faith, her Christian faith. Yep. And that comes through. But there's just relentless honesty about the struggle in that. And I would say what I love about her is she is as she comes across in the book. Like you can have a conversation with her. Have you interviewed her for for the other podcast? She is, and there's no topic that's off limits. There's no element of judgment. She understands the basic human needs that people have, the carnal instincts, the desire to be known and seen, and the way that they can manifest themselves both healthily and unhealthily. And there's no shame in the way that she speaks about those things. She is pursuing the sacred. But thank goodness for us, for those who believe in Jesus, that she's found it in Jesus, because what a powerful person to have on your side, what a powerful ally, what an amazing communicator to put to words some of the things that I've struggled with and and stuff like that. So I loved, to speak to the book specifically, I loved it. Anytime, it's a couple of times I've seen people with a copy or whatever, and a few people have brought up to me that there's a chapter on lust where she's just so honest and straightforward about sex and about what she finds to be most fulfilling and the best sort of expression of sexual feeling, desire. And he talks about the fact that, you know, she's married and she had sex within marriage, and for a long time before that she was celibate, so that was sort of the decision that she made that felt like the fullest expression of her sexuality. And that wasn't a sort of suppression or submission or a lack of freedom. It was actually like such a, I don't want to put words into her mouth, I really want you guys to read it to hear her phrasing of it, but actually like really beautiful. But there's a moment in it where she's like, you know, I've got one friend who is with their partner, I can't remember if she said married or long-term partner, who goes to sex parties, and they see that as the full expression of their sexual freedom. And I've got another friend who's like polyamorous, and they see that as their expression of their full freedom. And she's like, and then there's me who's like practiced celibacy and then had sex within marriage. And she's like, but the three of us can sit down and engage in a completely, you know, to them, that is wild. And they would never want to practice their sexuality in the way I have, just as I don't fancy, you know, their practices. But we can have a really honest, a really non-judgmental, open conversation about why it is that that feels like fullness for them versus why what my choices are feel like fullness to me. And I don't know many Christians who could say that they do have or would have those conversations with such openness. And I think it's really beautiful.
Yeah, because that's her whole thing, isn't it? She wants to really break down tribalism and what she calls people like usness.
Yes.
And she does that so well. And I think, so this book is loosely based on the 7 deadly sins, which is why lust is a chapter, right? Because it's one of the deadly sins. And so I've noticed that this book has been promoted by Goop, Gwyneth Paltrow's wellness brand.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, but also it's been promoted by the Gospel Coalition, which I would say are quite like traditional, a bit conservative.
I'd say those two organisations don't often overlap.
Exactly. So the fact that she has written a book that can be promoted by the Gospel Coalition and by Goop just speaks to everything you've just said of like, you could hand this to someone who's never stepped into church before, and that in it they would find a really generous voice in Elizabeth. And so, yeah, it's about the 7 deadly sins, but not the way you think, because I think what I thought, so reading the book in many ways feels like taking medicine. And I think the chapters that I thought would hit me didn't. And then the chapters that I thought, I don't struggle with this. Like, I was like, oh, I feel like I'm having heart surgery. And Elizabeth's watching me have it.
Really got me. Which do you think really made you sit up and listen in a way that surprised you?
Oh gosh, so it was, she calls it acedia because she uses the old words, but that I think in more common language we call like sleuth or laziness.
Yeah.
Now I am not a lazy person, so I was like, that obviously won't hit me, but the way she frames it, and she says you can be so busy chopping up your brain to do 1,000 things, you do nothing. And I was like, oh, and she talks about phones, and then she talks about distraction, and I remember like that chapter, I was like, oh, how does she know?
Get out my brain, stop.
But it's so good. And I just think if there's anyone I trust to kind of perform open heart surgery on me in that way, it is Elizabeth Oldfield.
I tell you what, she feels like such a safe pair of hands. There are people who I respect deeply, who I think are phenomenal, and I love their faith and they love the way they speak about their faith. But if I were to chuck them into a room of some of my friends, I'd want to stand next to them just to catch anything that feels a little bit much, like a little bit like poorly judged given the audience. And maybe that's me. Maybe that's me being too, you know, too sensitive to like too much Christianese or to people who have different views, whatever. There's no one I wouldn't happily introduce Elizabeth to and believe that she would represent me incredibly well.
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. When I interviewed her for this book, I remember saying to her, Elizabeth, I wish I wrote this book. It's like, it's the way I want to represent myself as a Christian. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's the way I want us to be represented.
And there's so much humility in it as well, because she very much uses her own stories and her own circumstances. And that could be like just a throwaway moment that happened that taught her something, or like long-term decisions that she made in her life that she learned from retrospectively. But the word generous is really right. It is really sort of, she doesn't hold back from what she's learned, and also demonstrating the sometimes great, sometimes poor choices that she made in order to learn that lesson. That's quite a lot. Is she talks about the sort of spiritual practices that keep her grounded when those things can go wrong and stuff, and the sort of rhythms. And I think I'm a bit jealous of the fact that a few times she's like, oh, because I maybe used to struggle with that, or I used to spiral with that, or less so recently, but I used to. And that is literally because of the consistency she's shown with her spiritual practice, that she's seeing fruit from that. And she's like, actually, it happens less and less that I'll spiral in that way, or I'll feel that way, because I've been doing, this prayer practice or this, or I've been really disciplined about that. And it's really nice to hear someone go, I did what it says on the tin. I stuck to the prayer practice, and now I can see that is less of an issue in my life. And that is really inspiring.
Yeah, sure. Because I think the little byline, so it's called Fully Alive, and then there's a little byline that says tending to the soul in turbulent times. And she very much is like, you are being formed by something, like your soul is being shaped by things. I want my soul to be shaped to look like this. So she's very much like, she uses this phrase that I love, I want to grow up my soul. Like, I want to grow it up. So how do I do that? And you're right, like, she's got some really practical ways.
She's such a grown-up, but like in the best way.
Grown up.
Like safe pair of hands grown up, but also like fun.
Yes. Also fun. Yes. And I get a lot of people like say, oh, she's quite emotionally intense. And she really is. But I think you have to be. I remember opening the book and it starts off with her having a breakdown because she doesn't want to be in the world anymore. And it is intense. She's an intense lady. But you can't be. Like, look at the fruit we're all reaping from her breakdown in the car that one time. She didn't want to be an adult anymore.
Yeah. And actually, like, it's a level of intensity that I relate to as somebody who has struggled with, like, this is a really addict in recovery term, but struggle to live life on life's terms, struggle to take what is thrown at you as a person in the world who lives in terms of both external things and emotionally and mentally, has struggled just to take that and live in it and sit with it. I kind of need people who speak with that level of intensity, because there are times when I feel it.
Absolutely. And also to get like predictably feminist about it. No one berates John Mark Comer for being too intense. They just think, what a genius.
Yeah, like somebody's just out there putting it out there.
Yeah.
Like his coffees and his morning runs.
Exactly. He's like blazing the trail that we should all be following in. And he's super intense.
Yeah.
And yet when it's Elizabeth and it's a different kind of intensity, everyone's like, whoa, whoa, sit down. Please don't put all of that in our face.
Yeah, it's an intensity I'm happy with. I'm happy to engage.
Oh, yes, 100%. So we both would recommend this book, would you say?
Oh, massively. I think people should read it, and then I think as they're reading it, they should think through, like, who's that person who asks me questions? Who's the one who's always like, yeah, but you can't really be a Christian because blah blah blah. That's the person to hand the book to, because that person who pushes back, they're the one who's searching. They're the one who's asking questions.
100%. Yeah, I get it. Buy 4 copies, read 1, give 3 away.
Love that.
Yeah. And then buy 4 of Lauren's book and do the same.
So you blow all of your paycheck on all of these books.
Yeah. Okay, right. Before we leave.
Yeah, go on.
Very quickly. So on Tuesday, yesterday, the 11th of March, was the 5-year anniversary of COVID being declared a global pandemic. 5 years, half a decade.
Oh no!
Years.
Don't do fractions of a decade. It's been long enough for us to sort of say that.
I know, isn't that wild? Just the way that time has literally feels like it's vanished into a black hole is wild. But so I guess just to commemorate that, I have a couple of questions for you to just think back to that time. And it's your silliest everything. So very quickly, I want the silliest decision you made in lockdown.
I bought rollerblades.
Yeah, nailed it. The silliest cry you had in lockdown.
Do you know what? I went through a lockdown breakup, so I had a lot of not silly cries.
Yeah.
Silliest cry. No, I did a lot of crying, but I think I remember my sister, this isn't very silly or sad, or it's just literally sad. My sister being like, you know what you should do? You should watch Anne with an E, which is the televised version of Anne of Green Gables on Netflix, because nothing actually goes wrong in it. Yeah. She's just like a nice little girl. And I just sat there, literally tears just rolling down my face constantly. So I cried to like the whole of
You
Anne.
cried at the Cryless.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Find something to cry at.
Yeah. Okay. And your silliest joy in lockdown? The silliest thing that brought you joy? For me, pure takeaway. It was the first takeaway I had. I think that would also be my silliest cry.
When you had a takeaway?
Oh my gosh, the first takeaway when they just started opening again for the first time.
Deliveroo was running the whole time.
I was in the deepest, darkest rural depths of West Wales. I mean, there's no Deliveroo there on normal time, let alone COVID time.
Do you know in COVID, I don't know if this is particularly Christian content, but it's on brand for me to tell you. In COVID, a lot of drug dealers just bought off of eBay Deliveroo jackets and cycled around dropping off the drugs. Yeah, because you don't get stopped because you're a Deliveroo.
Sure.
Yeah,
that's quite innovative.
Yeah, all the innovation is always on the side of evil.
It really is, isn't it? Why is that?
Silliest joy, we did a Zoom murder mystery night where everyone dressed up and I was like a French woman. I hadn't committed the murder. I can't remember who had, but it was so silly. And I remember thinking like, this is really fun.
3 excellent answers. But thank the Lord, if that's just given shivers down your spine, just even thinking about that, don't worry, we're done. It's out. It's gone. It's half a decade ago.
And if they try and lock us down again, no one will stay home.
No, we'll all pull a Lawrence Fox and just be like, no, we'll be pulling Rita Oras all over the place.
You know, I knew-ish Lawrence Fox back in the day when he was with Billie Piper, because I was bar manager of their local restaurant/bar, and they came in every night. So when she was doing a show and she kept like not showing up and she was really in the press for it and she was getting loads of anxiety around it, she was often in with me. And we just like, she was like being followed by paparazzi and I helped them get away. And Lawrence Fox was, incredibly bolshy and hard work as a patron, I'd say. No one's surprised by that. That's
completely what I would expect him to be like in his local bar.
Yeah, that's it. And I had to be a decoy for them so they could get away from the press.
Well, for Lawrence or for Billie?
For both. I think their primary interest was Billie, but they were happy to snap a picture of Lawrence.
No, I meant who were you the decoy for? Who were they dressing you up as? Billie?
Sorry, I was Billie. Yeah, I was Billie.
Oh gosh. Well, when we started this podcast, I did not think it would be ending with the image of you dressing up as Lawrence Fox.
Yeah.
Which is now what's in my head.
Distract the paps. Yeah. Look, you've got to do what you've got to do, you know?
Yeah. Well, that celebrity lifestyle. That London lifestyle, Lauren. Well, on that note, should we draw this to an end for a week?
Stick a fork in me, I'm done.
Yeah, well, in which case, good friends, our 4 fans out there, and anyone else who may well be listening, have yourselves a beautiful week, and we will see you next time.
See you next time.